Mathite yasas discipuli salvete. Welcome to this next episode of Medical Greek and Latin. We are now on episode 6. I know I've posted a couple in a short time frame here, but I want to give you a lot to work on until I can get the next few episodes ready. So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about more vocabulary building, and we're going to be adding a second part here called suffix forms, which is related to the episodes on suffix, episodes 3 and 4. So get your tetradio, your notebook ready, and here we go. All right, so this is similar to what you saw in the last episode, although I have tried to organize it a little bit more. I'll start with the Greek word, which will be presented to you in English. There's kranion, which in Greek, of course, is kranion. That is the whole word. When it's combined with affixes or other roots, it'll retain just the krani part. And of course, we see it spelled with a C. In Old English, it would have had the K, but as we've said, many Greek words have been Latinized. And what does it mean? Well, we've seen this before. This is the skull, and it's where we get migraine and even the modern Greek word for helmet, kranos. Moving right along, we have kitos, and I'm going to show you most of the original Greek word. Students of Greek often struggle with the E sound because there are 6 ways of making it. But looking at the English on the left side should give you a clue as to which E you're going to use to complete this word. It's spelled with a Y in English, and as has been mentioned in many of my other videos, Y and the letter U are essentially the same. So we would put an epsilon here, kitos. The combining form is CYT, and again, the kappa has become a C. And this is where we get cell or hollow container. Then we move on to enkephalon, which is interesting because we've already had kephali in the previous episode. This has N, and if you'll recall from the very early episodes, N means inside. So we have enkephalon or enkephalon, the thing which is in the head, encephal, the brain. Okay, and you'll probably recognize words like encephalitis, okay, or encephalogram or something like that. These words will come up later. Next we have erythros, which in Greek is erythros, a perfectly common word. Those of you who are looking at that second column will notice that these are just standard Greek words. There's nothing uniquely medical or scientific about them. Your combining form is, it goes up to the second R, and this is one of the Greek words for red. Interestingly, kokinos is not the only word for red. I have another video coming up on colors and where they come from. So this is a good one to remember. And when we talk about medicine, we also need to know leukos, and in modern Greek, this is pronounced lefkos. There's your combining form, and this is obviously your white, like your leukemia and leukocytes. Okay, the white blood cell, combining 2 forms that we have here on the screen before us. Next, we have lithos, one that has also been mentioned before. In Greek, it's just lithos. Lith is your combining form, and this is stone or calculus. Lith, you've probably heard of lithograph, monolithic, Paleolithic, and things like that. So it's related to all of those words. We then move on to logos, or as some people who've never studied spoken Greek will say logos, but this is a Greek channel predominantly, so I'm going to call it a logos. And of course, in Greek, this is logos. Log is the combining form, and we get word or study, and I'm sure we can all think of many words that have this. After that, we have malakos, and there's what it looks like in Greek. Again, these are just normal Greek words, although they sound very exotic to us in English. Your combining form is malak, okay? And it means soft. Next, we move on to nephros, which we have seen about a half dozen times at this point. Nephros in Greek is nephros, and it goes up to the R in its combining form. And this, of course, means kidney. All right, I'm going to add just a few more to round out this initial list, which is a continuation of the one from the last video. So here we have neuron, which in Greek is nevron. Its combining form is neur, and this just means tendon or nerve. A lot of people forget the tendon part. After that, we have osteon, osteon, and we get oste, oste, like osteoporosis, osteopath, and things like that. Bone, those of you who have been studying Latin have probably seen OSS, that is the Latin analog of this word bone. Some of you may know what an ossuary is. It's basically a box of bones. Next we have scleros, and for those of you who can read the Greek, scleros. SCLER is our combining form, and this means hard. Next we have stenos, and for those of you familiar with the Greek letters, stenos. STEN is narrow, so you may have heard of a stenographer in a court, someone who can write in narrow spaces. Tachys or tachys, and the combining form here is tachy. Anybody who's into physics might know what a tachyon is, a particle that can move at the speed of light. And this means rapid. Just a note here, if you will look at the second column, tachys, that epsilon sigma, we did see in the last episode vradis, which meant slow. This ending, epsilon sigma, is used often for dimensions and physical qualities. So platis will be broad, makris will be long, and so on. Next, we have toxon, which we've also talked about before. In Greek, it's toxon. And our combining forms are either tox or toxi. And this means poisonous. And you might recall from a previous episode why toxon actually is connected to an arrow. Okay, to bows and arrows. There's a historical context there. All right, now let's move on to the other thing I wanted to discuss today, the suffix form. Now, the suffix form is nothing more than the combining forms, which we've been looking at, and the suffixes that we looked at a few episodes ago. Some combinations are so common that we can learn two things at once. Here's what I mean. We just learned log, and we've already learned some of the things that can easily and commonly be added to log. Okay, the y and the ist. So we'll get our logi and our logist. Okay, now what does this mean? Well, one who specializes in a certain study or science, that's an ologist. The science itself is the ology. So cardiology is the study of science. Cardiologist is one who specializes in the cardio, in the cardia, in the heart. All right, and then another one is this malak, okay, and you might remember that that meant softening, and this is commonly paired up with ia, ia, which we saw before in one of the suffix videos. So this is pronounced in English, malasia. To anybody who is snickering at malakia, I can't comment on it here. So, a softening of tissues, for example, nephromalacia. If you know that malacia is softening, and you remember that nephro is kidney, then you'll know what a nephromalacia is, or nephromalacia, as some people say. Moving right along, we have our sclera, and this is often combined with, and you might have already guessed it, it's often combined with osis, a suffix again we've already learned. So a sclerosis is a hardening of tissues like arteriosclerosis. Do you remember what arterio means from the last episode? If you do, arteriosclerosis is the hardening of that part of the body. Next, we have sten. Sten is also often combined with osis, so we have stenosis. A narrowing, angiostenosis. And angio was introduced in the last video. And if you remember what that is, angiostenosis is a narrowing of it. And for you Greek readers out there, I haven't forgotten about you. Angiostenosis. Okay, there's that third declension ending, which will become a regular eta, angiostenosi, containing elements like the double gamma that we've already talked about. Okay, so if you are using Greek letters to learn English, don't worry. These are all Greek words, and the spellings are very, very similar to what you'll find in English. All right, and we'll do one more. Tox is often combined with the ick, okay, which we've seen before, and it just means poisonous. And in medical Greek and Latin, this usually means poisonous to an organ. So, nephrotoxic. What do you think this means? You know toxic, you know nephro. Something that's poisonous to the kidneys. And again, I haven't forgotten about those of you who read Greek, nephrotoxiko. Okay, it's an adjective. So everything you've just seen here on this slide is the suffix form, everything in this middle column. It's really important to get used to these because these endings are very common. We will see hundreds and hundreds of words that use these. That's it for now. I hope you've been taking good notes, and I hope you'll go back and review the other episodes. The next video will contain a little bit of a quiz and more opportunities to build vocabulary as we make different combinations with all the parts that we've learned. So keep reviewing, and hopefully you're learning some Greek, learning some Anglika, and learning a little bit about medicine. That's it for now. Telos!